Corporal Thomas Lawrence McCarthy, United States Marine Corps, World War II. Folks, another World War II Iwo Jima veteran. Tom McCarthy was at Iwo Jima in February of 1945 into March. He served with the 4th Marine Division. We just saw a story by Greeley Wells with the 5th Marine Division. Tom was with the 4th Marine Division in our field artillery with the Fire Direction Center. So he had a lot to do with artillery on the island. That's a small 8.5 square mile island, 2.5 miles wide, about the size of Manhattan is all. And so many people died there. Almost 7,000 Marines were killed in the 36-day onslaught. Tom was there with them, and he tells an amazing story through his eyes and ears. And I'm so happy with these stories. And Tom also is featured in my film on Iwo Jima. So that's on my website. If you want a copy of that, just let me know. But I just am so happy to share these stories with you. We lost Tom a few years back. I think he lived to be in his 90s. And he was a New York Police Department officer for over 25 years after the war. He went to work in law enforcement. I think he ended as a detective. But what a career. I mean, I may show a couple of pictures after the introduction of him during that time, but it's just such an amazing man. I really remember my interview with Tom. I was in South Florida, like when I interviewed Greeley Wells and a lot of others that you've seen on this channel. And it was in Boca Raton, Florida, January 24th, 2005. Folks, did you realize that's 19 years ago, almost 19 years ago? And Tom went on to live a great life, went back to New York to be with his family, and that's where he passed away. But I've got a little short video clip I may show of his memorial service. But I've lost so many of my veterans, and it's, like I said, it's become bittersweet, but I'm just so grateful. I thank God I can keep serving him in my country through the lens of my camera, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. So this is a ministry for me, folks. Give honor to whom honors due. So Chet Howard, I haven't forgot you, brother. I want to thank you for making it possible for others to hear Tom's story. You've helped me with other stories, and I'm so grateful for Chet. I can't wait to meet you in person, Chet. Next time I get to Ohio, you'll be the first one I see, okay? I promise I will look you up. But I just want to thank you, Chet. Again, take a moment to salute you. And on behalf of my veterans and their families, thank you for helping us hear Tom's story today. His family's out there waiting to hear this story. So, okay, folks, just a little bit of housekeeping here. I've actually got DVDs on my website too, if you want DVDs of my documentaries. But I'm told you I'm going to Arizona in a few weeks. I'm going to interview Vietnam vets down there. I'm going to see Ed Masterson, Jerry McNally again. Some of you know them through my work. And I'm going to interview more Vietnam veterans. And it's a labor of love, capturing courage on camera. These guys are about the same age as the World War II vets were when I started interviewing them 21 years ago, late 70s into the early 80s. And the urgency of my work, folks, we need to document these stories. They're trying to erase this history. Well, I'm not going to allow them. We're going to continue bringing it forth on the Voices of History YouTube channel and radio station, which is being listened to now by over 50 countries across the world. And that's a great outreach. Now, I encourage you to have your young people in your families just download the apps for free, have living history in the palm of their hands, and they can enjoy the stories that I've recorded. So that's there for truck drivers, especially. Spread the word, John Penn and all those driving trucks, Chris Jansen up in Canada. Spread the word among truck drivers. I wish you would, because this station's a perfect fit for 6, 8, 10 hours on the road listening to living history. So I'm out of here. God bless you. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, and I will talk to you on another broadcast. things around that. Now, you're with which Marine Division?
4th.
Okay. Did you go in on February 19th or afterwards?
February 19th, around 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
What was your rank and your job at that time?
Corporal.
Okay. What was your job?
Fire Direction Center. Are you familiar with the Fire Direction Center?
I am vaguely. You're going to tell me a little bit more about it. Tell me, go ahead. What did you guys do?
You set up your CP, command post. The wires, I think Charlie mentioned it, they run telephone wires from the batteries, the gun positions, to the Fire Direction Center. We get the call from our forward observers. They're up with the infantry. They're picking out targets. We figure out from the base point, all the forward observers have a base point that they direct the fire from. They tell us, and we take one battery at a time to adjust on the target. Whether it's the rounds are over, or they're short, left or right, he adjusts to them. When we're on the target, we give that information to the battalion of artillery, 12 guns, and they put the range on it, the base deflection, and how many rounds they're going to fire. The commanding officer, our colonel, lieutenant colonel, he's the one that determines how many rounds. If they need more rounds, I give them more rounds.
I want to come back to that, but do you remember where you were the night before the landing and what your thoughts were about going into Iwo Jima?
No, this was our 4th landing. There wasn't much thought about it. They told us Iwo Jima would take 10 days, and then we would be in reserve for Okinawa. So
do you remember the morning of the landing? If you
Yes.
had breakfast, got on a ship, on the landing craft to go to shore?
We were on an LST, landing ship tanks they call them, and we had these ducks. We got into these ducks and we went into Iwo.
Were the Japanese already firing on the island, obviously?
Oh yeah, that's what surprised us. We were going in, we saw all these shells hitting on the beach. We were saying, where's that coming from? It was the Japanese firing at the beaches.
What do you remember, Tom? What did you see as you approached the beach?
Black sand, about a 12-foot high mound of black sand there. And all we had to do was get to the top of it. But that wasn't our big problem.
What was the problem?
Finding a place to hide. On Tinian, we had landed on Tinian after the island operation of Saipan, and we were in this crater, big crater. We set up the CP. So everything was going good there. The guns were firing, the infantry moved up. Tinian was a beautiful island. And the next morning, well, I stayed at that bomb crater all night directing the fire of the guns. And the next morning I had to go to the John. I got out, I was looking for a place to go, and the shells come in. One landed right into the bomb crater where I spent the night. Killed everybody. The battalion commander, Major McCarthy, terrible. And we got some more new guys in, and they took the guys' places who were killed. And we just went on again. So we're at the Saipan and Tinian. We went back to Maui. Then from Maui, we stayed there a couple of months. I guess that was around August till the end of the 1943, 44. And then we got ready for Iwo.
What did you know about Iwo Jima before you landed?
Nothing. The only information we got aboard ship was some American submarines had taken photos of the beaches and stuff like that, and they passed them around. They would have these talks aboard ship, you know, they'd have a, what do they call it, an overlay of the island where we were gonna hit, stuff like that. Knew nothing about it. The way they made it sound, 10 days and we'll be off there, it sounded pretty good.
So you land on the island, and is it chaos on the beach? What do you see? What's going on?
Just dead Marines. wounded Marines. Chaos, trying to get set up. See poor guys, they're shaking in their boots. Couldn't move, couldn't move. I'll tell you their names, but I don't want to do that. Good friends of mine, but these things happen.
They were shaking in their boots before they landed or after?
When they hit the beach. And this is their fourth operation now, right? And they were shook up. Took them right off the island the next day. So that's it, it was chaos. You see the shells at night coming from Suribachi and coming from the northern end. You just lay there like a mope. So what we did, we went into this, I guess they call it a pillbox. Was right in front of us. It was burning like mad. I don't know, from naval gunfire or from bombs, or maybe the infantry knocked it out. So the pillbox faced the water. So you had to go around the back of it. There was a row of stairs going down to get into the pillbox. And we said, this is great. Somebody put the fire out, and we moved in there. Going down the stairs, there's two Japanese laying there, blown to bits. And then there was, as you walked in, there was a doorway there to look out like higher up. And there was all sandbags piled up there. So nobody paid attention to it. Our colonel got somebody to remove the Jap bodies out of the way because they were terrible. And we set up the CP there. It was wonderful. Right? The poor guys were out in the field and out in the rain and stuff like that. They had it miserable. But the infantry did us a favor, I guess. They set up the pillbox for us. And that's where we operated on for the whole time we were on the island. We didn't have to move up. You didn't have to move up on that island. Our 105s could cover any spot on the island. And that's where we stayed. And we were there about the first 5 days. And one morning there's an explosion in the pillbox. Everybody jumps up, what the hell is that? Remember I told you about these sandbags were covering this doorway? There was a Jap upstairs. We stayed with him for about 5 days. He could have killed us all if he wanted to, but he finally killed himself. So we all rushed up like, what's going on here? And there was the poor guy. He shot himself. And every day the battle went on. 8 o'clock every morning. The guns would fire, I don't know how many rounds, Larry, you know? And then the infantry was supposed to jump off for Hill 362 or 382, one of them. And every morning they'd come tumbling down. One colonel come into our pillbox. He was a regimental colonel. A tough guy, a Annapolis guy. And he's yelling at everybody there. And he said, they're not jumping off, they're crawling off. So we looked at him, you know, of course he didn't say nothing. We're only corporal and he's a colonel, right? And I think he was mad because we had the pillbox and he didn't have one. But it went on for days and days. And Suribachi was taken. The flag went up. The first flag went up. The battalion who took Suribachi, was that the 28? They took it, they put their flag up, and their colonel told them, take it down, bring it back. And then they started all the politics, right? They wanted a big flag. They wanted to set up a raising of the flag. And they got these 6 guys to put it up. And that was the picture that they used for the 7th War Bond Drive.
How did you feel when you saw the first flag, or where were you, and how did you feel when you saw that flag go up?
I was standing on the airport, I think airport number 2. And I said, what the hell is this? This plane is coming in. And I'm standing there with an officer. I said, gee, that's a B-29. He said, we don't have B-29s. I says, gunner? He was a Marine gunner. I said, that's a B-29. And that landed. I don't know how it got over Mount Suribachi, but it did. About 2 seconds later, there was more MPs than you could count. And there's these young guys getting out of the plane. They looked younger than we did. They were great. They landed at Jima. That was a thrill to see the plane make a safe landing there.
But you saw that flag go up the first time, you said?
I seen a flag waving up there, Larry. I didn't see them actually put it up. Of course, it was quick. The guys from the ones who took the hill put it up, took a photo of it, then took it down and brought it back to their battalion for, I guess, history or whatever you want to call it. And then I saw the other flag up there. I didn't see anybody raise a flag. You didn't do too much walking around there. There's too much sniper fire. Poor Joe Sawero, nicest guy from Puerto Rico. He never went on an operation. He always used to stay back at Maui. But he wanted to go on this one because he figured a war might soon be over. So he's walking around and he, how you doing, Joe? We went to boot camp together. And he took one right in the head. Poor Joe. It wasn't bad. I sort of forgot about that. And I'm in court one night. I meet this Puerto Rican man who worked for the courts. And we're talking about the Marine Corps and this and that. And he says, did you know a guy by the name of Joe Sawero? I says, yeah, nice guy. He says, he got killed on Iwo. He says, he's my brother-in-law. Right? But he was a great guy, Joe. Nice, neat fella. But he was just standing there, and whoever shot him or where it came from, nobody knew, Larry. There was one poor guy there. It got so bad on the beach that they were blowing up landing craft and anything. So before they'd blow it up, they'd call fire in the hole, let everybody around the beach get down. And this one poor guy, I don't know who the hell he was, he got in this hole, you know? They blew this landing barge up. It must have went a mile in the air. Don't you think the heaviest part of the barge come down and killed him in the hole? What are the odds on that? And as I said, it just went on day after day. Every morning at 8 o'clock, a barrage would be laid down, the infantry would take off. Nothing, no progress. The fort, they didn't make much progress at all. It wasn't until the 5th Division came up the west side, the 3rd Division was up the middle, the 4th was on the right, and between the 5th Division coming all the way around and the 3rd Division coming up the center, the island was fine. Well, they thought it was secured. I think we heard about it back at Maui. I don't know how many Japs had come out of their caves or wherever the hell they were, and they killed a lot of these Air Force personnel. You know, after the Marines, the island's secure, you know, that don't mean nothing. And they took us off the island about, I guess it was the end of March, because we were aboard ship April 1st. That's when the invasion of Okinawa took place. And we were saying, gee, we were supposed to go there, now we're going back to Maui. There wasn't much left of the 4th Division anyway. I mean, they had a lot of replacements before Iwo. They took us back on 2 transports, back to Maui. And we were getting ready for, I guess, Japan, you might say. And the war ended.
Obviously, some of the men you went in, you knew pretty well. I mean, with the Marines, isn't there a bond that forms in combat?
No.
Close to guys, or?
I lost all my friends at Tinian. They all got killed on that hole. The other guys were just guys we knew from the battalion, you know, hello and this and that, but these were guys I lived in a tent with. When I got back to Maui after Saipan and Tinian, I was the only one that was left in the tent. The other 5 guys were killed. So yeah, after you lose some guys like that, you don't bother too much. You talk and stuff like that, but there's not too much closeness there.
But still, I mean, the Marines, there's a brotherhood with the Marines, right? I mean, you guys watch out for each other, and you're in combat. I mean, you look out for each other, right?
Because we were so small, They had 6 divisions, right? I mean, compared to the Army, they had divisions after divisions. When we get to California, we try taking care of one another. In California, they got a Navy bar and an Army bar, right? That's all that's in the bar with the Army, that's all that's there. The Navy has just Navy. In boot camp, they tell you, when you get out of the Marine Corps, you take on 6 doggies. Doggies are soldiers, we refer to them. So we go into a sailor's bar or an Army bar. Who do you think comes thrown out of the bar? The Marines. I was 149 pounds. What could I do with anybody, right? Those Army guys were tough guys. Oh, man.
Well, why did we need Iwo Jima? What was strategically important about that island?
Just to help out the B-24s on their raid from Saipan and Tinian going to Tokyo. They would get damaged and there was no place for them to land. So the only place left was at Iwo. They had a big airfield there, and the guys were able to set their planes down at Iwo. A lot of them didn't make it. Before Iwo was taken, there was a lot of losses on those B-24s, those guys. That was about a 12-hour trip from Saipan and Tinian to Tokyo and back. And these guys caught hell. Those Air Force guys, they are good.
Did you work much with the Seabees or have anything to say about them?
They could build anything, but screwed up. We're on the Marshall Islands, right? The island's secure. They say our outfit's going to stay there for a month. The 25th Marines were going to land at all these islands. The Marshall Islands was like a horseshoe. The big islands were here, 2 big islands, and then there were smaller islands here. So as the infantry was going up, we were able to shell them. So when we got back at the islands were all secured, just small islands, just to see what was on them. The Seabees argued with the Marines. They wanted to be on the beach, right? So the Seabees went out, they got the beach. The Japanese come over, drop bombs. Where do you think they hit? On the beach. Going into Iwo Jima, the Seabees, they landed with the infantry. They took an awful shellacking there. Another foul up. How whoever led the Seabees into Iwo, I don't know what to say about him or who told them to go in, but they come in and they build things, anything. They were good mechanics and stuff like that. I mean, when we got to Saipan, it was secured and we were going to Iwo Jima, we stopped at Saipan and they had houses up there, electricity, and they were good, but unfortunate.
Tell me about what you remember about the corpsmen that were on Iwo Jima doing their job. Did you see them doing their job, or did you help any of the wounded? Or
just carry them to the beach or down onto the landing craft. It wasn't far to go. You know, you went down this 12-foot incline of ash, and you put the stretcher on the boat. That was it. The dead, it was terrible. You always see a corpsman or somebody carrying bodies in a stretcher. That wasn't done on Iwo. Some of them may have been in stretchers. There was a tractor pulling a steel plate. It must have been 10 feet by 10 feet. And it was going all around the island, and there was guys picking up the bodies and putting them on the steel plate to take them to the cemetery. There was no stretchers. They show that a lot in the movies, but these poor souls were just put on the slab, the steel slab, and taken up to the cemetery, which couldn't be built. They didn't have a cemetery for days, because anytime they try to set it up, the shells come in. The shells didn't stop. From the day we hit the beach until they took us off the beach, the shells didn't stop. I don't know where they were coming from. I guess the infantry guys would know where they were coming from.
Hill 382, what, were you part of that?
No, there were small hills, 382 and 362, Larry. That's what they try to take every morning. And as I told you, the 5th and 3rd Divisions were coming around the west coast of Iwo because the 4th Division was having an awful time just trying to take. There's Hill 362 and 382.
Did you see what was going on in those hills? Because you said you saw the guys going up and coming down, or were you just telling?
No, that's what this colonel was complaining about, that they were, in the morning when the infantry took off, it was called the jump off. He referred to it as, they're not jumping off, they're crawling off.
You know, looking back 60 years, Tom, does it seem like 60 years ago, or does it seem like yesterday to you?
Sometimes, Larry. Larry. Sometimes I think about it. Sometimes I don't think about it at all.
When you came back from the war, did you just forget everything and not talk about it?
Yeah. What were you going to tell? Everybody saw something, you know, guys coming back from Europe, the Navy guys, the Air Force. What are you going to sit around and tell war stories? Who cared? Right?
Did you read the article that was in the Sun Sentinel? Is that what, when you called me?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think you called me? You wanted to tell your story or what?
Not really. I just wanted to see what it was all about. You know, what did it mean? Was it going to be a movie or something like that, or something on TV? Just nosy, I guess. I just wanted to see what it was like, or who this guy Larry was. You know, it sounded pretty good, and they mentioned Iwo Jima, and I said, gee, I don't think there's too many guys left. You know, so that's why I called, and then I think you called around the 3rd day or something like that. I says, well, if you didn't call, I probably wouldn't be here, but you did call. So I says, well, all I have to do is just talk to the man. I don't have to do anything.
No, you're doing great. Tell me about the pride of the Marines. Do you feel that pride still?
No.
How come?
Too many dead Americans. You know, if that's pride, I guess so. But when does it stop?
Well, what does the American flag mean to you, Tom?
It's a great country, right? The best in the world, I guess. There's none better.
How about freedom? What does freedom mean to you?
I don't know. I think the only time you know what freedom is when you lose it. You know, here we grow up as kids and everything else, free as a bird. Who could take that away from us? They take that away from us, we're in a lot of trouble. We just take it for granted, Larry, you know, that freedom. You can't do anything with Americans. They know they love freedom and nobody's going to take it away from them. And that's the way it is. I hope we never lose it.
What would you say to a young person, Tom, about the price for freedom?
Too expensive, it seems, at times. You pay an awful price for it. But my father did it. My brother-in-laws did it. I did it. Millions of other guys did it. They did everything they can to preserve it.
Who do you think the heroes of World War II or Iwo Jima are?
Well, they got a pat answer for that, is the guys who didn't come back were the real heroes. But there were some great men who did unbelievable things in the war to keep it going. You know, officers, great officers, great men. Where do we get these men from? Where do they come from? I read quite a few books on them, and did you ever read this Stephen Ambrose? He writes about the 101st, stuff like that. Heroes. you know, what the price they paid for it.
Why do you think you survived Iwo Jima to come back and to live your life?
How many times have I asked myself that? Who knows, right? I don't know. I guess it's all in the cards, Larry, right? Jesus. As I said, after Tinian, I said, what the hell am I doing here? You know, all my friends were killed and I survived. Maybe it's to take care of my daughter.
Do you think we're forgetting about the war, World War II?
Sure. Who remembers World War II? Do you remember World War I? Right? Do I remember the Civil War? If you want to see something, go to Atlanta. They got the Civil War Cemetery up there. Man, there's more guys there than who thinks about it, right? There's so many other wars since World War II, right? Korea, Vietnam, now this thing here. When does it stop? I don't think too much about it. I try not to. It's not going to do any good. The only thing I think about is the friends I had, as I told you, the ones that were killed.
Did you walk through the cemetery at Iwo Jima when they did put it up? Did you walk through it at all and look for names or anything? Or?
Oh yeah, well, you didn't have to, but some general would come around and make a speech, and I never forget what he said. He says, "You see how this cemetery is laid out, men? The dead here are facing north, and that's where we're going." I said, "Geez, you know." I felt sorry for all the guys that were there. I didn't have to worry about going to Japan. We knew we were eventually going to go there. But to hear, they make these speeches at cemeteries. They, you know, politicians might show up and somebody else make a speech. And as I said, I think they had the 5th Marine Division cemetery. I don't even know if they put up a cemetery for the 3rd Division. So you walked around and see the names of guys you knew, and they told you, all right, get ready to go back to the ship and back to Maui.
So what does Iwo Jima mean to you today? Anything, or you know, looking back at 60 years?
Just another island we had to take in the Pacific. You know, as I said, it was the 4th one, and they gave it back to the Japanese. But I guess that's the way they do things, right?
Can I get you to do a salute for me into the camera?
Please don't ask me to do that.
You want to do that?
I got a hat and I left it home.
Can you use his hat?
No, thank you.
Well, you know, you're the last man I've interviewed out of 30 this week.
You're working pretty hard.
And you're the only one that's declined. So if you don't want that, I understand though. But I've been to every home, well, done 30 interviews this week. I had a 107-year-old World War I veteran give me a salute the other day.
Really?
Yeah, he's still living. He's in this area.
God bless him.
He's in Pompano Beach.
How about that? What was his name, you know?
His name's Homer Anderson.
Homer Anderson. That's an appropriate name, right?
107-year-old guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
wait, that's it?
Well, I'm done. Did you bring a picture of yourself?
Oh, I got a gem here.